Hello everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for joining me today because we have some very exciting General Hospital news to talk about, and it's definitely worth the wait. I have to say, every time I sit down with General Hospital lately, it feels less like watching a show and more like sitting in on real lives that are completely falling apart and just trying to hold themselves together. And this storyline with Ezra Boyle and Sidwell, it really pulled me in deeper than I expected. I still remember the moment everything shifted for me with Ezra. He wasn't in a boardroom or making some powerful speech like you'd expect from a politician. No, I saw him at the Brown Dog Bar completely undone, drinking too much, voice raised, clearly fighting something inside himself that he couldn't control anymore. And I remember thinking, this man isn't just stressed, he's cornered. You know, I've seen a lot of characters come and go in Port Charles, but there's something different about watching someone who realizes too late that every choice they made has led them into a trap. Ezra felt like that to me. Like he woke up one day and suddenly understood he wasn't in control of anything anymore. Not his career, not his reputation, not even his own safety. And then Laura Collins steps in. Now, let me tell you something. I've always had a soft spot for Laura. She has this steady, grounded presence, like one of those women you'd meet in a small American town who just knows when someone is about to fall apart before they even say a word. She doesn't panic. She doesn't judge right away. She just listens. And I think that's exactly what Ezra needed in that moment, even if he didn't deserve it in the traditional sense. When she brought him back to her place to help him sober up, I honestly felt like I was watching one of those rare moments in life where someone chooses compassion over convenience. And in Port Charles, that's never a small thing. Because once Ezra started talking, everything changed. He admitted he knew about the photos Sidwell was using for blackmail. And I swear, I actually paused for a second there. Because in this town, information like that isn't just dangerous, it's deadly. It's the kind of knowledge that puts a target on your back without you even realizing it. And what really stuck with me was how afraid he was. Not just nervous, not just regretful afraid, the kind of fear that sits deep in your chest and doesn't go away even when you're finally alone. He was convinced he was already too deep in it, like there was no clean way out anymore. And I found myself thinking, how many people in Port Charles have said that exact same thing right before everything fell apart? He even mentioned Henry Dalton like a warning in his own mind, like he already saw his future written somewhere dark and final. That comparison alone told me everything I didn't need more explanation. Ezra wasn't just worried about losing his position. He was worried about disappearing entirely. And yet, Laura, she doesn't step back. That's what really got me. Instead of walking away from someone clearly entangled in dangerous secrets, she starts thinking about strategy, about survival, about how to fight back. And she suggests something that honestly surprised me, an alliance. Laura Collins and Ezra Boyle standing on the same side against Sidwell. I sat there thinking, now that's a pairing I didn't expect, but somehow it makes sense. Because Laura isn't naive. She knows exactly what kind of man Sidwell is dealing with. Someone who doesn't just threaten people, he controls them quietly, like a shadow that spreads before you even notice it's there. And Ezra? He's already inside that shadow, deep inside it. But here's where it gets complicated for me emotionally, because I don't fully trust Ezra's position yet. He says he regrets it. He says he feels trapped. And part of me believes him, but another part of me keeps wondering how far someone has to go before trapped becomes complicit. That line in Port Charles is never clear. It blurs so easily, especially when money, ambition, and fear are all mixed together. And Sidwell, honestly, every time his name comes up, I feel like the temperature drops a little. The way he uses leverage, secrets, and fear, it's not loud or flashy. It's controlled, calculated, the kind of danger that doesn't announce itself until it's already too late. That's why this whole situation with the blackmail photos feels so unsettling. Because it's not just about Laura or Sonny anymore. It's about a system of control that's spreading quietly through everything. And Ezra, whether he admits it or not, is standing right in the middle of it. What I keep coming back to is this question. Is this his chance at redemption? Or is it just another layer of manipulation that he hasn't fully recognized yet? Because Laura sees a man who might still be saved. She sees someone who made mistakes but didn't necessarily choose evil. But I've watched enough of Port Charles to know that redemption stories here are never clean. They always come with risk, always come with sacrifice. And somewhere in the middle of all of this, I can't shake the feeling that Laura is also putting herself in danger just by believing in him. Still, I have to admit something. I admire her for it. Even when everything around her screams caution, she still chooses to believe that people can change, that not everyone is beyond saving. And in a place like Port Charles, that kind of belief feels almost brave in itself. So now I'm left sitting here, just like so many times before, wondering where this is all going. Will Ezra step into protection and finally turn against Sidwell? Or is this alliance going to crack before it even has a chance to form? All I know is this: nothing in Port Charles stays simple for long. And when trust starts mixing with fear and secrets, things usually explode in ways nobody sees coming. And I'll be honest with you, I'm not just watching anymore, I'm waiting. I got to tell you, when I think about Ezra Boyle and this whole situation with Sidwell, I honestly feel like I'm watching someone standing right at the edge of a cliff, trying to decide whether to jump into chaos or walk straight into the unknown. And I can't help but lean in a little closer every time Laura starts piecing everything together. Because here's the thing that really sticks with me. Ezra knows too much. Not just rumors, not just political gossip, but real damaging information about a setup that could bring Sidwell down if it ever reached a courtroom. And when Laura realizes that, you can almost see the weight of it land on her shoulders. It's not just about fixing a problem anymore. It's about deciding what kind of future Ezra even has left. I kept thinking about that moment from Laura's perspective. She's not new to this kind of situation. She's been through enough in Port Charles to understand how fragile these deals really are. When someone steps into a witness protection agreement, it doesn't just change their address, it erases their entire identity. And Ezra, he's not some anonymous figure. He's a political man, a public man, a man whose entire life has been built on visibility, reputation, and influence. So of course, Laura hesitates, even if she doesn't say it out loud right away, because she knows exactly what she would be asking him to give up. His career, gone. His public standing, gone. Everything he worked for, gone in a blink. And yet, what does he gain in return? Safety. A chance to breathe again. And maybe, if everything goes right, a way to actually make meaning out of the mess he's in. That's what makes this so emotionally complicated. Because I can almost hear Laura thinking, is this really saving him, or is it just forcing him into a different kind of exile? And then you bring Sonny into the picture. Now that adds another layer entirely. Sonny Corinthos is never someone who thinks in simple terms. His way of dealing with Sidwell is probably a lot more direct, a lot more dangerous, and definitely not something you can neatly fit into a legal plan. So Laura is standing in the middle of this tension between justice through the system and justice through force, and Ezra is caught right in the center of it all. What surprised me the most, though, is that Ezra doesn't seem like he's only being pushed into this. There's a part of him, small, maybe scared, but still there, that actually wants to fix what's been broken. Like he understands that staying silent isn't really an option anymore. And in Port Charles, silence has a cost too. I keep coming back to this idea, maybe this isn't just about protecting Ezra, maybe it's about giving him a chance to rewrite the ending of his own story. Because let's be honest, if he stays where he is, tangled in Sidwell's world, there's no real future there. Just more fear, more compromise, more nights like the one at Brown Dog where everything starts to fall apart a little more. But if he takes the deal, that's where everything changes. Not just for him, but for Sidwell too. And I think that's what Laura sees so clearly. If Ezra steps forward and testifies, it's not just a legal move, it's a moral turning point. It's him choosing to say, I was part of this, but I'm not staying part of it. And I have to admit, there's something quietly powerful about that kind of choice. Because it doesn't erase the past, it doesn't pretend the mistakes didn't happen, but it does say, I'm willing to help stop this from hurting anyone else. That's where the idea of redemption really starts to feel real to me in this storyline. Not in some dramatic, perfect way, but in a very human, very messy decision to step forward, even when it costs you everything you thought your life was supposed to be. And Laura, she understands that better than most people. She knows this isn't a clean win. She knows Ezra's life will never look the same again if he goes through with it. But she also sees something else. If Sidwell is brought down because of what Ezra knows, then poor Charles becomes a little safer, a little more stable. And Ezra, despite everything, can walk away knowing he didn't just survive the storm, he helped end part of it. So when I think about whether Ezra will accept that witness protection deal, I don't see an easy answer. I see a man torn between two lives, the one he built and the one he might still save. And I see Laura standing quietly in the middle of it all, hoping he chooses the path that hurts now but heals later. And honestly, that's the kind of decision that doesn't just change a character in General Hospital. It changes everything.